Hey guys, this is Cassandra in Persona. I'm also known as Aslan. Right now I am going to start shading a pair of ears, as you can see right here. I already started shading these guys. But we have so many elves at the moment, I thought I would actually record the process of shading your ears, because shading them will make a really shitty pair, awesome in 5 seconds. Most of your ears are going to come kind of very pale like this. This is not a good pair because you can see there's a lot of little dents and crevices in the latex casting, but if you shade it properly, right there, you can see it gives it more of a texture and a depth to the little ear divots. So that's what we're actually going to do today. We're going to try and make a pair of ears look a lot better than when we first got them. Ears shouldn't cost you more than like 10 bucks, around there. These are the Wuchi ears. These have been already shaded. Of course, my webcam doesn't want to actually show you. Here we go. No, webcam really doesn't want to show you. These go for $9.99 at Ronjo's. If you live here on Long Island, Ronjo's is a magic store on 112. I think so. So anyway, they're really cheap. You could wear them either up like this, or you could wear them back like that. So it really depends. Obviously, there's a lot of open area where you can play with your ears. Elves, I think, should have the same kind of genetic variance any other creature would. So if your ears want to be slightly tilted to the back, upwards, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, these are things that you can kind of play with to help develop an overall look for your persona. So there's lots of ears. Experiment with them if you like. Contact me and I have links where you can buy different types of ears in different shapes. Once you actually get them, how you shade them sorry, my webcam just freaked out a little. How you shade them will also help you develop a persona in the way you look. If you want to do a little bit of a white speckle here and there, that's not really outrageous. You could definitely get away with doing that. With my ears, I like to give it a little more of a pink tone. I like to give the pink tone towards the tips, especially because if you look at your ear normally, it's kind of like your hand. Your hand is a little more pinker than the rest of your arm, or your face even. So you want to go with something that's a little warmer in tone towards the tips where the blood would be closer to the skin. Let's see. These are the ears I'm going to be shading today. Ignore the creepy guy, he's really scary. But as you can see, they come very plain. They're a nice shape. They seem rather nice. You could apply them with spirit gum just like any other pair, and if I had a pair of scissors, I would open. Oh, here we go. So, let's see. I don't need to wash me while I do this. Alright, here's what we're going to be working with. As you can see, it's mostly just makeup. There's two different ways you can go about shading your ears. You could either do it with makeup, or you could do it with something as simple as acrylic paints. Whichever you have, go with it. If you don't have makeup of your own, if you have a sibling, go steal your sibling's makeup. Odds are they have the same complexion as you, so you'll have stuff to work with. Now, let's see. Makeup-wise, let me scooch this down a little bit more. I like to prime the ears with a foundation. These are the foundations I have at the moment. Really, it doesn't matter. If you have foundations that are kind of on their way out, well then that would be fantastic. Use those. Right now I'm going to start with a darker tone. I'm going to start with the Revlon Color Stay Makeup. It's in the color Nude. Oh, and as you can see, here is one that's been shaded and one that has not been shaded. Again, I like to go a little heavy on the pink tones and the tips of the ears. Again, that's preference. If you want, you could do a little white tip, a black tip. If you want to do freckles, those are all things I could show you how to do. Alrighty. Okay, so we're starting with nice base. These ears are a little too pink for the skin tone that I'm going for at the moment. So I'm going to start taking out that foundation on a little spongy do. You could use a brush as well. Doesn't really matter all that much. Try not to spill it on you as it's slowly going down my work spot. Let's see. Sometimes if you hold it by shoving your finger up its butt, it works great. So you're just going to kind of go over it lightly, or smear it on. You'll find that the latex on the ears sometimes come a little powdered. That's fine, you can wipe it off. It's not really essential to the life of an ear. Okay, and if you take the dry butt end of the sponge, just stipple at it. This will pick up the excess foundation that you have on the prosthetic. It's a subtle difference, but it also works as a great foundation, i.e. foundation, for what you're about to do later in shading. The webcam doesn't show out much, but on this side, this one is a little more of a yellow tone, as this one is a little more of a pink tone. While your ears are still a little damp, I'm going to use Revlon's Just Bitten Lip Stain. Look at it, lovely, right? Okay, you could use any lip or cheek stain you like, doesn't really matter. You're just going for that ruddy tone that you get in the tips of your fingers and your ear. I'm putting it into the crevice corner, and a little on the tip, and I'm just going to rub it into the foundation with my fingers. You could use a brush if you prefer, if you want to be clean, professional like that. If the ear gets a little wet while you're trying to blend, dry as it were. If your ear gets a little dry while you're trying to blend your red tones into it, just kind of dip a little thing of water on your finger and tap at it. Now I'm going to continue to get into the crevices and the tip. I'm also going to go on the inside of the ear here and probably the edges. So here's an example of the ear with just the foundation, and you have a little bit of that pink lip tint on there. Okay, this is just a cream eyeshadow. It's kind of like a sparkly pink-ish color. I'm just rubbing that a little bit on the top rim on both of the ears. I'm doing this to give it almost a dewy tone, because later when we're shading, it's going to look a little flat at times. And since it's summertime, odds are we're sweating our asses off. So, a little bit of shimmer is nice. I'm sure Pat's crying in the corner. No, no glitter! Not glitter on my ears! But, it'll look good at the end. Let's see. Now I'm taking just my fingers and I'm rubbing it in, so there isn't any strong straight lines of where I applied the shimmer. Okay, this just brought forth some of the highlights of the ear and the natural shape of the casting. Next I'm going to start using some blush and eyeshadow to create the shadows in the ear. By using a darker color, you'll be able to give the prosthetic more of a depth than it actually has, because sometimes depending on the prosthetic you get, it's not very nice looking, it's just kind of bleh. If you want to mix some, I'm using this brown here, this color here, and this color here. A little bit of brown mixed in with the red is going to give a more natural tone to the shadows. I'm going into the corners. It'll be here, here, a little bit here, and a little bit here. If you want, you could even go across the top and around in the bottom to help create more of a contour that looks natural from other angles, in case you have pesky photographers who are ninjas and get you from all angles. If you're having a hard time with your eyeshadow or blush or whatever you're using makeup wise, try dipping it into a little bit of water, and as you go, just blow away any of the excess powder so you see where you're actually shading. any line that you have, you should try and blend it out a little bit, because there's no absolute lines on your body except for maybe like scars and whatnot. Everything has a bit of a depth and feather to it. If you want, take a picture of your prosthetics on your actual ears and hold that picture up as a reference image, and it'll help you figure out where it lines up on your actual ear, and that way you could help merge this area where the prosthetic meets your actual ear with, you know, the shades and highlights, so it connects a little more believably. If you'd like another comparison, right here, this is one of the ears that I've been working on, shading in the darker areas, whereas this is the one prior. You notice it's getting a little darker. Don't worry about that. You really want to build in believable shadows so that later you can go back and bring out the highlights, and I'll show you how to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to shade the other ear, and I'll put probably a little bit of this really nice pink in some of the tips of the ear as well to help bring out that color again. Alright, next I'm going to start bringing the highlights back in the ear. I'm going to be using this color here. This is a yellow toned peach. It's probably the same color you would use for, you know, using a pressed powder. I'm going to start taking it in some of the highlight areas like here and fading it into the darker areas. This again is just another way to continue building up a depth of the actual prosthetic. Something to keep in mind also when you're shading your ears is that it's okay when you're originally dropping things. It's okay to, when you're originally shading your ear, for it to be a little darker than your skin tone, because when you go back later, it's a lot easier to start bringing the highlights back than it is to continually adding the shadows and just being like, oh, is it good? No. Oh, go back and do it again. Oh, it's just really, it's easier to just build things up. Let's see. Okay, now if you'd like to compare between the two, in this hand right here, this one hasn't been shaded with highlights yet, whereas this one has. So, here's a better look. Again, this one hasn't been shaded with highlights, this one has. You'll notice this one also has a little more red to it compared to this one. If you want to go back, if you feel like you're losing your pink tones, you could definitely go back and do that just with a bit of pink blush, or if you want to use the lip stain, you can do that. Just be careful, you gotta make sure it blends in nicely still. Now the pink's back again. Next, I'm going to be taking a very nice bright foundation. It's liquid, so it's going to be a little difficult to blend it in. Okay, I'm just going to go dabbing it into the cap, just a little tiny amount. Tiny. I'm going to use this to brighten things up again. Just going to go on the rim of the ear again, dotting it where I want the highlights, because your brush really needs to have barely anything on it. Okay, comparing the two now. This one has some highlights to it, whereas this one doesn't. It's all a lot of subtle changes and building up your textures and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. Alright guys, so the last step to doing your ears, you know, the basics of ears anyway, would be to finish it. You have two options for finishing it. First of all, you have Makeup Forever's Mist and Fix. This is, it's really just actually something you use for makeup to keep your makeup from shifting on your face all day when you're sweating. Oh, ooh, I cursed. Oh, wait. This is something people use. You do a light mist on your face to keep your makeup from, you know, melting all over when you are sweaty in the nasty, disgusting heat. The other option, oh, Pearl, I miss you, Pearl, would be matte acrylic. This is something you would spray onto photographs, drawings, to keep graphite from shifting around. It's kind of the same thing as the makeup stuff, except it has a wider use of applications, and it's generally used by artists. So I'm going to use this, just because Pearl's better. And let me move this little camera so you can see what I'm doing. Alright. Here are our ears. And apparently a pair of my really cool looking boots. And another pair of shoes. But ears. Alright. Shaking your can, you want to hold it really far away because you really want to mist. Because we shaded these with makeup, you really need to make sure that you seal them in some way. Otherwise, the actual powders and whatnot will go flying all over the place, like my hair at the moment. So you're going to let those dry. Generally speaking, don't jump into fountains of the ocean while you're wearing them because the colors will shift a little bit. But when you're just sweating, it'll be okay. That's the point of using the finisher spray. Realistically, you could have done this with acrylic paints. Acrylic paints probably, you have more range of colors. However, when you use your makeup, generally you're using colors that match your skin tone as it is, so you don't have to worry about mixing the colors and trying to get the right colors to begin with. So it's a bit of a cheat, as it were. You could use little shimmers sometimes to give shimmer to your ears. If you wanted to do a small freckle, I don't have anything. God damn it, why do I never have anything I need? Ugh. Use a toothpick, dip the toothpick a little bit in some wet, not foundation, but eyeshadow, damp eyeshadow, and just kind of dot it onto the ear itself. This actually is a really easy way to disguise the bubbles in the latex that happens now and again. Let's see. Bubbles are like this thing right here. It just happens naturally when they're casting it. You know, unfortunately it looks a bit like a wart if you don't get rid of it. You could clip it off, but if you're worried about ruining the piece, then obviously just disguise it. Make it look like it was meant to be there. So take maybe, even if I do pink, do little pink dots here and there, some white dots. If you want to take a small minuscule amount of glitter, you could do that. All things that are reasonable. Another thing you could do to dress up your ears would be to pierce them. So, you know, obviously it's piercing like anything else. If you can get a little bit of jewelry wire you could wind it up this way. Where's my ear cuff? I use an ear cuff. Here you go. Cute little thing. It spindles upward either this way, or you could even have it go up. The only downside is you need to be careful what kind of prosthetics you purchase for your ears. If you do gauging or any massively crazy ear modifications, obviously I don't have that problem, but some people do. So it's something to look out for. Alright, by now our ears should be pretty much dry, and voila, they're done. Let me put them on because they're always cooler that way. A really easy way to hide the little lip of your ear is while you're putting the spirit gum on, press it really, really tight to your ear, and that'll help it a bit. Or pull a small amount of your hair to the front, pull the rest behind your ear, and no one knows the difference.